Hey, Michelle. So usually within the product, there's three issues. There's the first layer, which is the vehicle. In other words, will this vehicle, this product, work when everything else hasn't? So is it different? Not better. Is it different? And how is it different? So in their mind, it needs to be positioned as, well, this is unique. It's a unique mechanism. It's a unique approach. It's not like anything you've done before. It's totally different, right? And it can't be better. It needs to be different in their mind, right? Because everything else has failed. So if it's not the vehicle, then it's the internal limiting belief. It's like, well, okay, well, Matt, well, I get that it works, but it just won't work for me. So you need to overcome the internal limiting belief. Sometimes then we overcome the internal limiting belief and they get to the point where they're like, oh yeah, I get that that would work for me. But then you've got all these external barriers to change, the third layer. The external barriers to change are things like it's just the wrong time. I'm too busy with the kids. So much going on at work. Um, all the external barriers that in their mind now are going to get in the way. Now, the vehicle works. It's great. I get it. I've seen the proof. The second layer, then, okay, well, I get it would work for me, which is the internal limiting belief, which, yeah, I can see this working for me because it's habit driven. I don't need to give up everything. I enjoy the odd beer on occasion, so I could probably stick to this, given that you've mentioned how you work with me, not against me, how this process is X, Y, and Z, and so forth. I can see how that would work for me. Now you need to overcome the external barriers to change. So it is fairly complex in the mind of the prospect. There's a lot of different things that are layering. But if you get to the point of identifying uncertainty and you steamroll past that and don't just pause and not just listen to what they've said, but the meaning behind what they're saying, then you're probably going to miss something that's really important. And you're going to get hit with these kinds of things. So we've been listening to the identifying uncertainty. So we're going to listen to one call. Then what I want to do, just one section of that call. Then what I want to do is go deep into the rule of five. Has anyone heard of the rule of five yet? So the rule of five is simply this. It's a it's playing into the idea that a buyer often needs you to ask more than once. Because as I always say, 100% of people that get on Zoom with you are a bad fit. No one wants what we have. Everyone's a bad fit because no one wants a program. If you had an issue at home, for example, you needed to hang a painting on the wall, you don't want a drill. What you actually want is the hole so that you can put the nail in and then hang your painting up and get back to work, right? So you want the outcome. So the rule of five is in place to be able to very tactfully, very skillfully press and probe, loop and ask and ask and ask. And the reason why I went back to the rule of five, because it was something we had some years ago, kind of went away from it. And then what I noticed when I got back on some calls just recently was that some of the agents were just missing calls because of the most simple thing. Who can take a wild guess why they were missing sales? And then all the hard work, they'd found the implied need, got the buyer in the pocket, the explicit need, position, the prescription, all that kind of stuff, get to the end of the close, and guess why we were missing the sale?
Didn't ask enough.
We didn't ask. We literally did not ask. It was mind blowing. I mean, man, we actually did not ask. So the rule of five existed for that reason, or was brought back into life for that reason. So we're going to sort of get stuck into that a little bit. So let's just listen to one of the calls for the rule of sorry, for the identifying certainty. Um, we picked on Donnie yesterday, so let's not do that. Uh, how about Luke, I pick on you and just do one call because you're going to do it well, which is a better example
Mm.
of.
Um,
I've got one here already.
which one?
Okay. I've got Connie.
From yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can give it a go. Didn't. I'm trying to think how she finished up. I think she was one that was really concerned about the finances at the end of it all. So for the identifying certainty, it'd be good. Probably not so much for the rule of five.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's dive in here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the video here. Sorry, guys. Let me just get organized. And then you can see my screen with, can you guys see my screen with the note, with the script? So when you're on your calls, in an ideal situation, you got your sort of Zoom in front of you here, for example, and then you've got your tabs open. So if you need to get to the cheat sheet, you're here. If you need to be on the actual script, you're here, right? So where we are, identifying certainty, let's go.
Control of your health and your weight once and for all, so that you can set yourself up for a healthy future, right? Don't have to rely on medications to look after your health. Don't want the knees and the hips and the back to start aching because more and more weight keeps coming on, right?
That's it, yep.
That's what, this is getting to that tipping point for you at the moment, right? It can be a slippery slope.
Yep.
So do you feel like that approach of Dr. Ross's, where it really looks at everything, like, do you feel like this could be the answer for you?
Yeah, it sounds positive, yep, sounds good. Yep.
What do you like the sound of? Like, what makes you feel like this could work for you?
So there's kind of like three layers, right? So one is obviously the first, which is just about the overarching approach, kind of like the vehicle in a sense, right? So this is, she said it sounds positive, which isn't really an emphatic type response. When you say it sounds positive, or what do you mean, right? So possibly just pausing a little. There wasn't really much pause to allow her to continue explaining what she means by it sounds positive.
Mm-hmm.
So just a little pause, right? Now, the follow-up question is a good question because it is a probing question. Can everyone see that? What makes you feel that this could work for you, right? So it's a probing question. So it's not that it's bad. So it is effectively him going a little deeper. But I would want to probably pause, allow a little room first, because she is a little uncertain there in that, well, it sounds positive, right?
That sounds like it would be, sounds like you're not restricted to sorry.
It's all right.
It's, you're not restricted to like, sounds like it'll just be a part of your life. Yeah, I don't know.
Nice. There, just a little acknowledgement and didn't interrupt. What that allows her to do is continue. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Well, I guess which specific parts do you
Nice. So which specific parts, going into a little further?
feel will help you the most?
I don't know. All of it, I suppose. Good. Yeah.
So nothing stands out for you more than the rest? There must be something.
Oh well, like well, just having the support there, I suppose, that you can ask questions. And
Yeah, because
So you see the questions here that are available to you, if it's vague, if it's not specific. So how do you see that support, or how do you feel that support would actually help you? And sometimes you need to link things back to bring it back to their memory. So you need to use that what we call the strategic empathy, right? You mentioned earlier that you struggle when you're left to your own devices, and it kind of leads to, you sort of deviating. Given you would have the support, how do you see that helping you with that? Sometimes you may need to link it back to something to bring it back to.
And just a quick thing, are you showing computer sound? I don't know if I can hear you like from the mic, from the.
Okay, sorry. 1 second. Let me know if this is better.
that was one of the things that you mentioned.
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Is that better, guys?
Yeah, you sound a little bit more echoey, but that
Yeah,
audio sounds better. Yeah.
Okay.
And having that support and that guidance to really help you sort of work through this next period of time. Yeah, and when you say like it doesn't sound restrictive and it just becomes part of your life, I think you said. Why do you feel like that will help you in particular?
the moment like a diet says you can't have that, It's like something goes into the back of my mind. That's what I want. And it gets to the point where you think, well, I can't have it. Oh, and then the time that you're feeling a bit flat or low,
Yeah.
or I'll stuff it, I'm just going to have it. And then
Yeah.
I have the horrible, unfortunate thing of like, once I start, then that's it. I thought, well, I've done it now. I'll just, instead of eating the whole, I'll have the whole packet of biscuits.
Right. Yeah.
Just, so.
So this is a very interesting mindset of a lot of individuals, right? Of a lot of people that struggle with any kind of thing in their life. Who knows the type of mindset here that's a concern? There's an all or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an all or nothing, right? And so it's kind of like the person that says, well, if I can't save $1,000 a day, I'll save nothing. Or it's a little silly, right? Because usually, the reality is in any area of our life, like we can't be all in anything. Like it is literally impossible, to be all. And so when it comes to health in particular, like from my perspective, this is a big problem because when people get stuck into this frame of thinking, they often self-sabotage by saying, well, I can't be perfect, therefore I'll be completely imperfect. Oh, okay, well, if I'm going to have a biscuit, I might as well have the whole tin. So this is an issue, right? So often what I've found just on my calls in the past, when I was doing calls, I would have to address this and say, well, that's interesting. Like how's being all or nothing, either being all in or being all out in the past served you? And they'll say, well, it hasn't really. It's kind of like saying because you have a sip of wine, you've got to drink the whole bottle. Do you see why that's a problem? And so, oh yeah, I do, yeah. And so then often why I say this is an issue, because when it comes time to commit, who knows what they're going to latch onto? The fact that I can't be perfect. The fact that I can't be all in means that, well, I'm going to be all out. And so this is not necessarily specifically now sort of related to what's happening right in front of us, but as a general concept, I just want to make sure it's really, in your mind. What usually needs to happen is an acknowledgement, and an acknowledgement that something is better than nothing. So I would usually ask, well, look, I'm curious on how you feel about this, but would you agree that a little of something is better than nothing? Because let's imagine you couldn't be perfect, and let's imagine, that 20-kilo weight loss goal, Michelle, we've been talking about. Let's imagine you weren't able to do absolutely everything you need to do to get there. But let's imagine all you did was some of the fundamentals, some of the habit change, some of the walking, some of the other things that are still positives. Would you agree? They're like, oh yeah, I would agree, that's positive. Okay, so let's imagine all you did was that. And even if all you achieved was a weight reduction of 10 kilos, do you feel that would still be a positive? Would that be a win? Oh yeah, that would be a win. So this is just a bit of a red flag. It's not really what's happening specifically on this call, but just for you to understand, the last thing you want to get beta trapped into is this idea of all or nothing. Because the all doesn't exist. And in fact, by definition, habit change is micro. We know that when people commit to too much, often it becomes overwhelming. So just as a bit of a red flag here, I'll be curious to see where she gets stuck. But the all or nothing perspective is a really bad perspective. Oh, I can't finish a book in a day, therefore I'm not going to read 2 pages. It's a little silly, right? So it's just curious to sort of address it. Yeah.
Yeah. If someone tells you not to think of a purple elephant, what's the first thing that pops into your mind, right? The purple elephant. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So you felt like if you can get that balance right between learning what you can do and not just being.
So again, maybe just a nice opportunity here could have been to talk about the all or nothing, Just want to raise an issue with you here, Connie, and you would lean into the all or nothing. Remember, being concise and brevity is king, and being concise is important. So knowing where to lead it, and you want to get the acknowledgement that something's better than nothing. Would you agree? And then, yeah, I do agree. And even if all we achieved was X, do you feel that that would still be success for you? Oh, yes, it would. Even if all it was just that. Because who knows what the words even if kind of suggests, implies. It's a suggestion, it's an implied thing. Even if is getting you sold on the fact that even if all it was just that, you're still going to move forward. It's going to be so much more though. Does that make sense? So the words even if is a segue that I picked up from Russell Brunson. He uses that in his pitches, even if, because it's a suggestion that even if it's just that. Make sense?
Yeah.
Let's just dive into it. Yeah.
I was going to say, Shane, with the all or nothing, I was just having a bit of a squiz through the cheat sheet just for that sort of reframe or that concept sort of
all or nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to add it in there then. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that'd be really, really helpful, especially at the end there.
Does it make sense to everyone why that mindset is going to be a real challenge? In fact, it's going to. And I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys have experience too. But from my perspective, it's probably one of the most common mindsets, internal limiting beliefs. Remember, we talked about 3 layers. You got the vehicle, you got the limiting belief, and then you got the external barriers to change. Those 3 things have to be in alignment for the person to want to move forward. Right now, we have a possible red flag with an internal limiting belief. If I'm not perfect, I'm not going to. If I can't commit 100%, I'm not in. Hey, Matt, I'm the kind of all-in type. I'm the kind of guy that when I do things, I do them properly. But you're doing fuck all, mate.
Tony Robbins talks about 1% improvements each day. Just chunking those small improvements each day.
I want you to so go back to the idea that an object in motion would stay in motion. It's basic physics. And so when an object is not in motion, the hardest thing is to get it to get moving. So this is the hardest point of their journey today, because they are not in motion. So you're right. So what we want to do is we want to get micro progressions, and that progression first is the first step, getting started. But they have to acknowledge that it's okay that I'm not perfect. They have to acknowledge it's okay that you are not going to be perfect.
Start to create some momentum.
Hey, guess what? Who knows what we can use here? Feel, felt, found. Give me an example, Luke. Let's go. Feel, felt, found. You're on.
In terms of that,
Felt, found around being perfect and like if I'm all in, if I'm all out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Connie, I'll let you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Connie. Look, a lot of the, I guess the other women that I've spoken to have felt the same way before joining. And do you know what they found once they were inside the program?
What's that?
Well, they found that this all or nothing mindset that's hurt them, they were able to overcome it. They were able to focus on one small thing each day. And that was the thing that started to change the results that they were receiving.
Well done. Feel, felt, found. Hey, Irene, I get how you feel. It's totally normal. Wanting to be perfect, I get it. I've joined 1,000 women, and I'm going to join 1,000 more. They're going to feel exactly the same way. And there's been some dramatic transformations that I've personally witnessed, the people that have joined just like you. Do you know what they found when they actually took the first step and got started?
What's that?
Was that the approach was so simple, so enjoyable, that anyone can achieve it, because it doesn't require you to be perfect. It just requires you to start. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Feel, found, right? That's just, we're not going to go into the objection. It's just feel, felt, found. It's you being able to quickly reframe someone's way of thinking and get them. I can see how trying to be perfect would be a problem. Yeah. Cool. Let's just, I don't want to digress too much.
feeling like a diet, you feel like that's going to help you to sort of stay on track and actually enjoy what you do as well. Yeah. Yeah, good. And I guess, is there anything that makes you feel like you...
So we have a confirmation yes still, you know, and she's a bit of a tough nut to crack.
She was like this the whole call through as well. So like
Tough nut to crack, right? Well, we want her emphatic. We you know, Connie, I'm sorry, you know, like I'm not feeling that at this point you're actually convinced this would work. Do you have doubts that this would work? Search for the no. Okay, why do we want to search for the no? I know we're about to do it in a second, but why do we want to search for the no?
So you can handle the objection early.
Handle the objection early, and also disarm the prospect, because there's something, I guess, within us that knows when people are searching for a yes. You're searching for a yes. You're trying to trap me, Samantha. You're trying to, Michelle, I get what you're trying to do. That kind of thing. Even if they don't say it, but there's a degree of that. So sometimes if you're not getting the yes, well then search for the no. I'm sensing that perhaps you're not convinced that this would actually work for you. And then just leave it. With a no, they're gonna, oh, no, I actually do. Yeah, okay, well, so what about it then actually really resonates and gives you the confidence that this would actually North Star. Who put their hand up first? Irene.
I've kind of forgotten my question, but I guess this lady, when you say Luke, she was like that the whole way. I don't think this lady actually has the capacity or has actually thought deep enough about what she actually does want.
Yeah.
So she doesn't even know. Like,
yeah.
Not that she's trying to be difficult. She doesn't even know to think deeper. So
yeah, it was a way of sort of it was the way that she communicated the whole way through, and that's why I guess through that section it was trying to get to get her to be consistent in the way that she was speaking the whole way through, and then I was sort of more comfortable with that. But even asking her through her whys and trying to get the deeper level of pain and those sorts of things, like she was really surface level, but I think it was just sort of her and the way that she communicates.
Yeah.
And I know we go really deep in why and what's keeping them stuck, but there's only kind of 1 or 2 lines in the script that talks about, you know, in 6 months' time, can you really sort of envision what your life would be like? I feel like we need to focus a little bit more on the possibility, get them excited. Like, is it really possible? Like for this lady, I think she needs to believe that it is possible for her. I don't know.
Well, there is that. And so within that aspect of the script, you can ask more clarifying questions, more probing questions. You can go a little deeper in the section if you feel like you need to get them into that hopeful state. At the end of the day, that's what we do sell. We sell a hopeful future. That is what we do sell. You're 100% right. So your ability to read the room in that moment there and get her going a little further along into that hopeful future, like even potentially asking sometimes a question like I'm not actually looking at that section of the script now. Well, it's actually there. It's hopeful future. Let's just go have a quick look. But so suppose we're able to help you remove pain. How would your life be different than it is now? And then it goes into, okay, so if you were to imagine 6 months from now, you've lost 18 kilos, right? And you've gone into whatever the future desire is. When you picture yourself in that situation, having become that version of you want to be, how do you feel then? You can spend a little time in here.
Good, yeah.
You can ask some further probing questions. Not every question doesn't need to be in the script. And if you're getting something that you feel is important, asking a clarifying question, who knows how to get a little more out of a question when a response is given. Paraphrase, label. Paraphrase, label. By paraphrasing, you're simply saying empowered, clarity. That is not really paraphrasing. That's more forget the name of the way we do that. But it's just using 2 or 3 words with a pause that allows them to expand a little bit, sometimes paraphrasing. where you'd feel happy for the first time in
Yeah.
20 years. And
Is
that allows,
that mirroring?
that's mirroring, right?
Yeah.
So mirroring could be 3 words. Paraphrasing goes in a little deeper.
Yeah.
Labeling uses the label. It sounds like, or seems like, it feels like, with neutral statements, and you can go a little deeper, right? The reality is that as soon as you get them into the hopeful state, you've got to drop them on their ass. Right? You need to take them back into, well, what happens if you don't change? Right? You need to go into that sort of situation. Yeah, let's keep going.
Also,
I don't have his hand up. If we could just, sorry guys, Max, did you have a?
Yeah, I just wanted to share that something that really helped me to understand why we ask first negative instead of just focusing first on the positive is like we're trying to run or make like the prospect run with a stretch band basically attached to their waist. So first we need to take out the stretch band and then help the prospect run. So that's something that for me worked to understand basically why we focus on negative first. Why do you feel like this couldn't work out for you? And then focus on why do you feel like this can actually work for you?
Sorry, Sky, did you have a question? Was that you?
oh, I was just going to type it in the chat, but another way of clarifying perhaps could be asking them on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you feel you're sitting? And it might be with regards to what we've discussed or with wanting to make a change. If you're not really getting that clarity, perhaps that would be a good way as well.
So in the cheat sheet, there is the instant influence framework, which is kind of what you're describing there. The instant influence framework works on establishing an actual marker, right? So you look at, if we're not going to go into the instant influence framework in its entirety, but basically what it does is it gets an actual number. You'll see here, for example. So it goes into trying to dig in a little deeper. It asks for perspective. So this may sound silly, however, just humor me for a second. On a scale of 1 to 10, if a 1 meant you weren't ready, but a 10 meant you were absolutely ready, how ready might you be to try something new if it meant that it would prevent type 2 and get those 18 kilos off? Irrespective of what the human says, the psychological angle beyond that point is to frame the positive. So if she said 5, I would say, well, that's interesting. If she said 7, I would say, well, that's interesting. If she said 10, I would say, well, that's interesting. Because it doesn't matter, and here's why. Because the theory in the instant influence framework is not, well, why didn't you pick a higher number? Who can tell me why we would not ask that? Because that's a negative frame. I would search for a positive frame, which is, well, that's interesting. And I'm curious, Sam, why didn't you choose a lower number? Because now we trigger the positivity bias. And so now they're going to go into saying, well, I didn't choose a lower number, Shane, because I actually care. I actually want to change. Because if I ask the negative frame, guess what's going to happen? Why don't you choose a higher number? Because I want you to be higher. I want you to be a 10. Tell me you're a 10, Sam. Tell me you're a 10. I heard this on a sales thing the other day where the agent, there was a sales trainer talking about a call that they heard. And the agent was saying, tell me you're a 10, Sam. Tell me you're a 10. And the person's like, oh, I don't know if I'm a 10. So they go into this negative frame, which is really silly, right? So the negative frame would be, well, why don't you pick a higher number? Well, because I'm not perfect. Now we're going into the thing we've been trying to avoid, right? So you're right, Sky, you can at times go into an instant influence framework because it taps into the drivers of the human. It taps into their deep why. And so that you can weave in and out of. And this is why it's an art form. It's a science and an art form. It's your ability to go, well, okay, I'm stuck here. I'm going to use what I know right now, my best judgment. I feel like I need to get something from this person. And there could be something in here that you go into and then you pull out of and you go back to the script. So I could ask the person that, why don't you choose a lower number? She says, well, because I'm finally ready. Okay, well, that's good. So let's imagine hypothetically then you did take a little step today to get started. What might the benefits be for you then? Well, I've been procrastinating for years, and because I've been perfect and wanting to be perfect, I never do anything. And so why is doing something then, question 5, important to you? Because I need to change. Okay, well, do you need to change or do you want to change? Who knows, the change language is very different between I should, I need, and I want.
I have to.
I have to. There's only one response we want, which is I want to change. You don't need to be perfect, but I want to change. Max?
Why want instead of need?
Well, because need is based on, it's still based on external barriers. It's still based on external desires, like external pressure. It has to be about internal pressure. So need, I know I need to change. How many people have you heard say, I need to change? Oh, I need to give up smoking, Matt. I need to give up smoking, Donna. You know what I need to do, Sky? I really need to exercise.
Do you actually want to, though?
They do fuck all. And the reality is in life, we do what we want to do. And it's either important enough to us or it's not important enough to us. That's what it boils down to. There's nothing in between. So it's a valid question because it's subtle, right? It's subtle because he said they need to change. Well, you don't need to, because you could, you could, right, Irene? You could just kind of kick this down the road. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand why you might want to. Now, the word might, we're kind of digressing a little bit, but this is important. Who agrees this is important? Do you want me to buy?
Yeah.
Okay. So instant influence is where this kind of comes from, right? So instant influence is based on behavioral psychology. And the idea is that every human has all the motivation they need. Hence why I say, and I mean it, that every human is a bad fit, because no one wants what we have. What they want is the outcome. I need to get healthy. I should eat better. I really have to exercise. I really have to give up smoking. Well, you don't have to do anything. Who knows why? Because when you say to someone you have to, Irene, what's the immediate reaction you get? Look, Irene, you have to read 20 pages a day.
Yeah, it's totally the opposite. Like if you choose to.
Yeah. So what it is, it's removing autonomy. Now, humans are amazing creatures. We love autonomy. We hate being told what to do and when to do it and why we should. And Michelle, you have children, right?
No, I don't.
You don't.
Fur babies.
Let's imagine you said to someone in your life, well, you should really, what you should do. The immediate thing that happens is a barrier because you're removing autonomy.
Yeah, definitely.
What it is, it's very neutral. And it says, well, Matt, look, you don't have to do anything. At the end of the day, it's your life. They are your consequences, but it is your life. Okay? Would you agree? Now, you don't have to do anything. At the end of the day, you can choose whether or not you do something about this situation today. I'm just curious why you might
No one wants to be told what to do.
So hypothetically, and this is just, man to man, right? Just humor me here for a second. Well, if there was a reason why you might want to even consider, why did I say that word consider? Because I'm diminishing the request. I need you to change your life today, Matt. Big request. I need you to marry me today, Matt. Big request. Would you consider, why might you want to consider just going out for a coffee? Just a coffee. Small little request. And it taps into their drivers. What it might is because you're actually not a bad dude, right? And they're starting to go into their reasons. So you're right, Sky, you can at times move into something like an instant influence, but it's only if you're feeling resistance. If you're feeling resistance and there's a barrier, they're not moving forward, then you want to tap into their drivers. A human on fire is the most powerful thing in the world, or the most dangerous thing in the world. We do things based on our internal drivers. Every decision we make is based on our internal drivers, right? Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Did that kind of answer the...
You couldn't
Yeah.
lose weight or lower your cholesterol if you had our help. Well, I don't know. It's just like, what was the question again? I guess so. You like the sound of like the support, the guidance, the help, and that side of things. I mean, is there anything at all that makes you feel like you wouldn't be able to be successful in terms of improving your health?
So here we're digging for those external barriers to change as well, because typically here we should have uncovered the internal limiting belief. And here it's really about the external barriers to change. Is there anything that, you know, would make you feel that even
We're still
without...
searching for the no.
Yeah, we're searching for the no, right?
Yeah.
Losing the weight, lowering your cholesterol, if you had our help along the way? Well, I'm assuming that you would know the things that I couldn't do, and part those that knowledge to do. Yeah, so I can use it. Yeah. At the end of the day, if it's my choice. If I know I'm going to do something that's not going to help me, then that's my problem. Yeah. Like I think most of my issues are just emotions, I think. You know what, I mean, you basically know that you shouldn't have, like, you know.
What word is she saying? I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. So it's what we just spoke about, right? Those drivers. We want to know why they want to, yeah?
You know what is good for you and what isn't good for you. It's just sometimes you think, well, why when I was feeling sad did I eat that? Or why when I was really happy did I eat that? Or, you just, because you're bored, you reach for, you know, chocolate or something when you know that.
We need something around the emotional eating from a cheat sheet perspective to empower people, to give them a bit of perspective on this. So we'll come back to it.
It's not.
And then 5 minutes later, you're like, why the hell did I just do that? I'm trying to do something.
Again, if you don't know what to use in here, feel, felt, found. If you don't know what to use, a feel, felt, found could go a long way. I totally get how you feel. You know, the emotional roller coaster that most people I speak to experience often leads them to making decisions that don't serve them, that sabotage their health, that lead them down a slippery path. And so many of the women that, you know, I've spoken to over the years, they've achieved dramatic transformations, all felt the same way. Lost, stuck in a perpetual cycle of emotional eating and searching for reasons why they keep doing it. Do you know what they found once they got started, Sam? They were able to find the tools to manage those emotions for the first time in their life, and that set them free. Does that sound good? I didn't need to go into crazy fucking reframes. I just used a feel, felt, found again. Does that, can anyone just see that? Like, and because I'm dealing with something here that's quite complex. Most, and this is not uncommon. I would probably argue this is the most common thing. You know, we're dopamine addicts. Would you agree? Day and age, we're dopamine addicts. And the reality is, you know, God lover, most people in that situation don't have much joy. They don't have much to look forward to, guys. My dad, every day, do you know, and I say this with love, my dad, he sends me a fucking picture of a cake in the morning every day. Because when he eats that cake, guess what he gets?
Joy.
A bit of love. It's sad, right? So the emotional eating component, I feel lonely. I don't have purpose. Humans are purpose-driven creatures, guys. I just finished reading a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. It's all about our future self. And he goes into deep
Reading that book. Yeah, maybe you told me.
your future self now. Yeah. And he goes into deep science around what drives humans. And it's just being our future self, our future. The minute we lose focus or future desire, we're a ship without a rudder. So that emotional, and I'm not an expert in this realm, so I'm not going to say this is the absolute, but it's searching for joy, it's searching for happiness, it's searching for something that gives a degree of meaning to the day, some kind of pleasure. So I didn't need to go into too deep a situation other than a feel, felt, found. I totally get how you feel. I get that. And because that's going to be a little bit of a roadblock. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any questions on that? Or perspectives? You might have some really good perspectives.
No, like I said, I don't think a lot of these people are really sad. I don't think they've ever done any personal development and really created a future vision for themselves.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Michelle?
I think, I totally agree with Irene, and I feel so sorry for this poor lady, but I think I'd be honing more into her emotions, going back to that. How does that make you feel when you binge? And how does that make you feel for days after that? So what if we could help you step by step change that? I know that you've covered that, but maybe go back to that again too, because that I feel like is the real decision maker for her.
Yeah, I feel the opposite. I feel we need to give her some hope. And is there really hope for me? Can I really change?
But turn that into hope, because that's her main objection, I think, when that's like just beating herself up. That's what I meant. She's on this roller coaster. She can't get off. And then back to what Shane said before, what if we have something where you just small steps, but you can achieve it? I don't know. That's just what I'm picking up.
The hope comes from the feel, felt, found, and there's a valid point in both these things, right? So like the emotional part of I suppose what she's experiencing is a self-sabotage kind of loop, right?
Yeah.
And not to digress too much, but that feel, felt, found reframe kind of does both. It gives hope because you know what? Now, when humans see what others can achieve, that gives hope. That gives hope, right? Because it's the law of consistency. Robert R. Cialdini in Persuasion talks about the law of consistency. If others could do it, despite that I haven't been able to do it, maybe it's possible for me. So the feel, felt, found is, well, thousands have done it just like you. They're in your situation, emotional eating, on a perpetual cycle of downward spiral of biscuit after biscuit. I get it. And then future state, yeah? Not to digress too much, but Valley, let's just move through.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I know, you know exactly what it is. It's just, you know, it's emotions. Eating isn't just when plus, you know, food is not just to nourish yourself. It's like, it's comfort, it's...
What do we just say?
You know, it's when you're angry, you can eat. Happy, you can eat. When you're feeling down, you eat. Like, it's all like...
A nice feel, felt, found gets her green and moving forward.
That sort of stuff.
Does that make sense, Luke? And there would be many ways to skin a cat. There'd be 5 different perspectives on this, and they're probably all going to be valid. That's just from my perspective here. I'd use a feel, felt, found.
And emotional behavior around food is one of the biggest things that people come to us that...
Okay, let's see where this goes. This could be really good.
I guess they need help with understanding and then actually coming out the other side of it, finding new ways and new, so that it doesn't sort of be that. And that's why the habit and the mindset coaches that we have who help you really understand, okay, well, why when I'm sad do I just go and grab a packet of biscuits, right? What can I do that means that, the emotions are going to be there, right? You're going to have those moments where you feel happy, sad, stressed, and in between.
Exactly.
You get to the bottom of why that trigger happens. It just puts you in a better position to be successful long term. And look, even to put your mind at ease further, Connie, we don't expect you to be perfect, okay?
Oh, yeah, well, I don't expect it of myself.
Yeah. Nice, a nice pause.
Good. All that we ask of you is that when you join the program, you come in with an open mind. So just be willing to give things a go.
Yeah.
And as long as you can work with us to refine your strategy, to change your plan, to adjust things along the way whenever you come up against a challenge, that's it.
Yeah.
So I do agree with the fact that this lady needs belief. This lady needs belief, and sometimes that belief, this is perfect in terms of being able to do that. Sometimes you've with brevity, you've got to find what you feel is going to set her on fire, wanting to take that leap, trusting herself through the process, that kind of thing, right? So let's just keep listening.
Okay. Those two small things makes it absolutely impossible to fail.
Yeah.
Because our program, it works 100% of the time when people give it a go. Okay?
Yeah.
Those and again, I would be really leaning in here again, maybe with a little brevity. If there's something that I can think of through that conversation to get her acknowledging the fact that perfection is your enemy, inaction is your enemy. Up until this point, you haven't been doing anything. That's the enemy. What we're going to focus on is you doing something. I'm going to lead you down that path. This is where I want her to believe, right? The small little step we're going to take today is going to be powerful together. That kind of thing, yeah, injecting belief.
Bonnie, we're not here to let you down. All we need is for you is to show up, give things a go, and we take care of the rest of it for you from there, okay?
Yeah.
That sound fair enough?
Yeah, it sounds all right.
Yeah, sounds all right. You think you can put your hand up and ask for help if you're a little bit unsure?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, look, as I mentioned,
I feel like we probably still somehow needed to search for a more emphatic Connie. I want to help you change.
Yeah, she needs a bit more hand holding. I feel, even if we say, look, we're going to hold your hand through it, she needs a bit more
Yeah. What I mean
nurturing.
is, I really want an emphatic yes from her. I want to search for that. It's hard because there's clearly some internal limiting beliefs there, from what we've discussed. You've got the vehicle, internal, and then external barriers to change. I feel like there's a bit of an internal limiting belief. I self-sabotage. I let myself down all the time. I can't stick to anything. I've got no motivation. I don't have any discipline. When I see the biscuit tin, I'm head first. It's that kind of internal dialogue that's going to be really difficult. The all or nothing thinking, what we spoke about at the start of the call, is going to absolutely be a grenade, right? Because why invest money, particularly at this level, if I'm going to piss it up against the wall? Because I've proven over and over and over again. So it's difficult because we've been probing and probing. I don't feel like we have an emphatic yet. So let's listen.
At the start of the call, we do have our applications closing in the next few days because we have had a lot of people apply this time around. But you really want to make a change, right? You want to get on top of this now.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, look, I'd be happy to offer you an invitation to join.
Is that a yeah, or is that an absolute yeah, Connie? Like, do you really want this? Like,
I haven't buy-in yet.
Yeah, like believe it. Like, I think it is challenging, right? So, what I mean by that is, we get to this point where we feel like we want to just get to the prize. We just want to get to the thing, right? But the reality is, I need her really putting her hand up. Like, do you actually want this? Like, you don't have to do this. Again, instant influence. You don't have to do anything, Connie. You can keep doing what you're doing now. Self-sabotaging, going down this path if you like. It's almost like the why now section again. Around kind of.
Well, that sort of just prompted my memory because there was a point in the call, and I think it might have been through the why now section where she's like, it almost sounds like you don't want to help me.
Gotcha.
So I think so I think
how can we disarm that? How can we disarm that? That's good. That's
yeah.
Use the story, like we, you remind me very much of Joan, and Joan was quite similar to you. She, I guess this is telling though. She sounded a little bit unsure of the process, but once she had limiting beliefs. See, this lady doesn't even know she's got limiting beliefs. She doesn't even know what they are. She's got no idea. So it's almost like I feel like
stories can work, and they've got to be real. They've got to come from a place of truth. And it's obviously something you're going to think of at the time. You're going to lean in with the story, for example. But again, brevity is going to be important, and it's got to land, right? I think the just from a basic point at this call, like, I need her putting her hand up.
Mm.
And how we can disarm, because that's very valid, right? I mean, Luke brought up a valid point where, I kind of pissed her off before. How can we disarm someone? Who can tell me how we can do it again, but disarm her in advance?
Accusation audit.
Yeah, okay, so give me an example of an accusation audit. Who, other than Luke, who could do a little accusation audit now and lean into then the question? If you don't know, that's all right.
I'm just very hard to.
Okay, so
Is that when you like say, I don't want to offend you,
Oh,
and then you
Yes,
offend
yes,
them?
in a roundabout way. You say you don't offend you, and then you offend them anyway. Right. So what it is, it's delivering a hammer with a feather.
Mm.
So the accusation audit is where it's here in the script. There's some a little bit of in the cheat sheet. There's a little bit of information there to study, and you can deliver something where basically comes and Luke, do you want to have a go? Just as a very just off the top of your head. Doesn't have to be perfect.
Hey, Connie. Look, what I'm about to say, it might piss you off. It might make you think that I'm not actually here to help you or that I'm pushing you away. However, and then sort of lead into the question.
Perfect. So what we do is we disarm first by saying, Connie, I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm about to say because it may offend you. That may make you feel like I'm actually trying to push you away. Now you go into your why. Do not forget the why. The reason I need to say it is because if I don't, I'm afraid that you're going to repeat old behaviors. You're going to remain stuck and things are going to get worse for you. And I don't want that for you. Is that okay, Sam? I get you acknowledging. At this point, I don't believe you. Now I deliver the hammer. Because their accusation order is, what could you possibly think about me with what I'm about to say? You're an asshole. You're pushing me away. You're a little rude and presumptuous. So get those things out on the table. Hey, Irene, what I'm about to say may come across a little presumptuous and possibly irritate you a little bit and make you feel like I'm trying to push you away. And you could be forgiven for feeling that. Accusation. Now my why. The reason I feel I need to say this is because, Donna, I'm concerned. I'm concerned if I don't bring this to your attention, you may continue down this path, and we all know where that leads, right? Matt, we all know where that leads, yeah? Okay. So here's the thing. Then you say the fucking thing. That's the feather before the hammer. And then it's like, well, at that point, because who knows what the most important bit there is, though, like just to make sure we're all clear on what the most important bit there is. It's the why.
The reason why you're asking the question.
Why. Now, the why needs to come from a place of truth, Michelle. That why has to come from a place of truth. It cannot be based on manipulation, trying to get a sale. Max, it needs to come from a place of truth. Because it has to. Because my why is, we've been on this Zoom for best part of 40 minutes, Sky, and I've enjoyed our conversation, but I've also had to listen to some very difficult things that you share with me, right? So at this point, I'm invested, and I actually want the best for you. Why? Does that make sense? That gives you a lot of leverage, a lot of fucking rope. And now Matt, his guard just goes, okay, dude, we'll punch me in the face then. Punch me in the face, right? So you can do that. Like at that point, if you feel you need to get a little kind of buy-in. Max, did you have a question? No. Okay, cool. Let's just listen for 2 minutes. I am gonna shut the fuck up in this 1 second.
Today, because I really think that having that helping hand is the thing that you need the most, right?
Yep.
So would you like to explore the next steps of how we can get you started?
All right. Okay, what am I signing up for? Because
Here we are, right? So even in that moment, again, this is the art, and this is why the 1% matters, right? It's excellent stuff, but and again, it's always easy in hindsight, right? So hey, hats off to Luke. First of all, right?
Absolutely.
Fucking hats off, because that's a difficult prospect, and hats off, right? It's always easy in hindsight. So let's acknowledge the fact that that's easy, right? We're all experts when we're listening on the outside. So I don't buy it. And what I don't buy is not that she's lying, it's that she's not certain. And okay, well, what am I buying, right? Well, Connie, you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to do anything. You know, and then that question needed to be, well, look, should we explore the next steps and how we can actually solve this for you? Because look, here's the reality. You're 60, help, and again, if I've missed anything, feel free to interrupt. So you're 62, 34 kilos overweight, been leading a sedentary lifestyle for as long as you can remember. You're self-sabotaging, you're in the biscuit tin, all the emotional stuff that comes with that. We talked about how you feel flat, in your words, unhappy, in your words. You don't have to do anything about this. I'm just curious if you actually want to, because if you want to, well, we can explore the next steps. If you don't want to, that's okay. Lean the fuck out.
I love
Take
that
it away.
Yeah, I love that.
Because see, here's the thing. So when you chase, they're going to run. When you run, they're going to chase. So it's like, again, this is easy in hindsight because we're listening. We're all intelligent when we listen. But like, if you just look at it from that perspective, and you go, well, I'm here to empower you to change. I'm the change agent. You don't have to change. I know what happens when you do. You don't have to. Do you want to change? And then because I need her putting her fucking hand up, saying, save me, please. I need fucking help, and I want you to help because you're a nice person and I believe you now. I get it. I want help. Okay, what have I got to do? Sure, I get it. I'm in. Okay, let's go. I need that level of acknowledgement and forward motion. An object in motion is going to stay in motion. Now, have you ever tried to pull? You ever seen those images of trying to pull a donkey?
I don't know what you're watching, Shane.
And God, I know, that's some crazy shit. Trust me, out there. Be careful on Google. And so, like, if you're pulling a donkey, it's not going to move, right? But if you give that donkey a reason to move, it's going to pull a heavy load, right? Max?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. There was a part in the call that the prospect said, I'm assuming you're gonna do this. I'm assuming you guys are gonna help me with these kind of things.
Okay.
So when someone says, I'm assuming, is that like a red light or like something to be
There's a bit of
I'm not sure.
There's a bit of uncertainty, and again, we don't want to give all the fine detail of what's in the process. When someone buys a holiday, what do they really want? Do they want you, Matt, to tell them about what seat they're going to sit in and how many minutes are going to be on the plane?
How shitty the leg room is.
Yeah, shitty the leg room is. No. They just want to know when I get to the destination. So look, there's a degree of uncertainty in that. Like, I'm assuming, well, you know, there's a beautiful thing about leaving some gray. There's a beautiful thing about leaving some gray because humans will fill the gaps with what they think is the process or the product and amplify that. Who's been sold to before and gone, fuck, actually, that's not what I thought it was. So many times, right? So I don't really have the answer for that, but from my perspective, it depends on the context of the situation then, whether I'm going to go into details, because the detail could actually become the hurdle. Why? Because detail becomes an objection. Detail of the process and whatever. I want to keep it high level about frameworks, about concepts, frameworks, and whatever it is, because then they don't get into the weeds and create more objections. Yeah, and we've taken up a heap of time on that. Now I want to just focus on the rule of 5 very quickly. Is that okay? Just before we get into that, stand up and we're going to do a little energetic exercise. Seriously, stand up. And what you're going to do is you're going to tap your legs for 30 seconds. As hard as you
know what?
tap your legs 30 seconds.
With your arms.
And your chest. All right. Get back down. Who feels their energy just lifted?
Yeah, it's good.
Energy. All right, cool. So the rule of 5. You don't ask, you don't get. You miss 100% of the shots that you do not take, right? Now, we obviously want to get people to the point where they're putting up their hand. Yes, we want to get there, but when they get there, we do not hang up until they sign up or they hang up. That's not pressure. What that is called ethics. If I truly believe that Michelle needs my help, I'm staying in the game. If they are on Zoom, it's because they asked to be there, first and foremost. If they are still on Zoom, it's because they still want to be there. The idea is not to arm sales resistance. The idea is not to arm the buyer script. The idea is not to sell for your reasons. The idea in the dual process is to prioritize the well-being of the prospect over your comfort. Agree? Simple as that.
Absolutely.
So it is a mindset perspective that needs to shift when you get into this mode. It's game on. Now you've told me you want the help. You tell me you need the help. Now you tell me you want the help. I'm in the game because my job is to help you get it. I'm a change agent. I'm a thermostat. I'm not a thermometer. I'm here to elevate the energy. I'm here to elevate the belief. I'm here to elevate you into action. Because an object in motion is going to stay in motion. You cannot achieve what you want without taking the small step today. Whatever you bring at me, I don't care. Because I'm going to keep digging. I'm going to keep searching. I'm going to keep probing. I'm going to lean out. I'm going to be very tactful, disarm, whatever I need to do. But I'm in it for you. I'm in it for you. And so the rule of 5 is about asking. And when we say ask, there's a particular framework that I want to teach because, or I want to just sort of elaborate on. And there's, again, many ways to skin a cat. You're all intelligent people, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? Every one of us can learn from everyone in this Zoom room. I'm going to teach a framework, and the framework is what I want you to lean into, what I want you to master. Train hard, fight easy. Do not wait to be on a call to learn this. Learn it in advance. Read it in advance, dream about it like Irene is right now, and get it deep into your subconscious. Like, because there's 4 levels of competence. Who can tell me the 4 levels of competence we have? Unconscious, uncompetence, meaning you got no fucking idea what you don't know. Then you learn a framework and you go into conscious incompetence, where you now know what you don't know. Who can tell me what the next level above competence is then?
I know it, but it's
conscious competence. I know it, and I'm pretty good at it, but I need to think about it. So conscious competence, Max, where you know it, but I need to think about it. As in, like, I need to kind of be in tune. The 4th level of mastery is where you get to unconscious competence, where you can do it on autopilot, Sam. You're like, I know the framework. I've done it 1,000 times. I'm good. You hit me at any point and I'm going to just automatically go with it, right? So that's what we want to get to, right? So practice creates conscious, unconscious competence. Yeah, cool. So the framework is very simple. We are, again, let me just go back down here, rule of 5. And I believe the concept is here, tagged for you, but it's not actually in the script. So you're going to have to go to the cheat sheet if you get punched between the eyes, right? So the training is basically this. It's how to ethically and empathetically overcome objections, right? I am going to expand on this a little bit. I did keep it super, 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 super simple and try to keep it as simple as possible so that there's a basic thing there and then we go from there. What this focuses on, and Luke and I were having a back and forth yesterday. Luke, what was the main aha moment you got when we had a back and forth on DM? Just so that
selective attention.
Selective attention. So when Sam is focusing on cost, she's selected her attention. Would you agree? My job is not to challenge that. My job is to change her attention. Because a human can only focus on one thing at a time. Who believes they can have two contradictory emotions at the same time? Impossible. So it's not my job to do anything over here. I'm just going to shift her attention. Luke and I were DMing back and forth, and everything I did, selective attention. I just focused that person back on what really matters and why I'm here. Because I'm not your financial planner. I can assure you I'm not your fucking priest. And I can assure you that I'm not your marriage counselor either, right? Newsflash. But what I am is something actually potentially more important. I'm your change agent. So I focus their attention on what I want them to focus on. Selective attention. Cool. So this is the process in terms of the rule of 5. And yes, you need to ask, right? So this is the magic. So the person says it's too expensive, a ledge. Why do we have a ledge? Buys you time, people. It gives you a moment, right? Then we disrupt. This is a pattern interrupt. Why do we want a pattern interrupt? Just, and I don't say this I don't ask questions to like not condescending, but like I'm just trying to draw out from you guys. Yeah. It's we want to get their
shift their focus.
Shift their focus, yeah, and it's a pattern interrupt. When you pattern interrupt, what do I get? I get your brain paying attention. Tony Robbins uses a pattern interrupt in his live talks. Many, but one of them, can you guess what it is? He swears. In his live talks, he uses F-bombs, and he acknowledges it. He says, I use this as a pattern interrupt because I want to get your attention right now. And so he gets their attention. Now, we don't use that, but we use a pattern interrupt, which is a disrupt. Then we redirect, and then we ask. Now, the only thing I'm going to add in here as we go over the coming days is we're going to search for a yes, and then we're going to search for a no. So who would like to, just verbatim, word for word, who would like to be the prospect and who would like to be the sales agent? And we're going to walk through the objection of it's too expensive, verbatim, right? So just read the words for now, and who wants to do it? Be brave, get on the front foot, guys. Who wants to do it? Or otherwise, I'll nominate you. Cheat sheet. Someone can be the prospect and someone could be the agent. And believe me, this is the hardest place you're ever going to have to do it. Because guess who will not know what you're doing when you're doing it? The prospect. It's super easy.
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, cool, Sasha. Thank you. Round of applause, Sasha. And who are you going to be? You're going to be the prospect. Or you're going to be the agent.
I'll be the agent.
Okay, you'll be the agent. So you got the cheat sheet in front of you.
Yes. So we're doing this is too expensive.
We're going it's too expensive, and Luke, just for now, you can be the client. So Luke says it's too expensive.
Too expensive.
I hear you, Luke. I actually hear this every day. And honestly, I wish I could make the price lower, but I can't. What I can do something about is your health. What concerns me most is that you're 45, you're 18 kilos overweight with high blood pressure. And more than that, you're tired, withdrawn, and you're not feeling like yourself. Is fixing this actually important to you right now?
Yes.
Then let's focus on what matters. Would you prefer to pay upfront, or does a payment plan feel more realistic?
It's still a lot of money.
I get it. It's more than you expected. But let me ask you this. What has doing it your way cost you so far?
Yeah, you're right. Hasn't really worked.
Because every month you delay is another month your blood pressure stays high and your energy stays low. That's expensive too. So Is it really about the money, or is this about facing something uncomfortable that needs to change?
It's uncomfortable, but it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, totally valid concern. Let's be honest though, if you could have solved this on your own, you would have already. You've tried the free stuff, the cheap stuff. It hasn't worked. This isn't a cost, it's the solution. So, if this was the answer, would it be worth finding a way to make it work for you?
Yeah, it would be.
Then let's focus on what matters. Would you prefer to pay upfront, or does a payment plan feel more realistic?
I'm still not sure. I just need to check my budget just to see how I can make it work.
You're not alone in thinking that. But it's not about affording it. It's about prioritizing it. And if your health isn't the priority, what is? Is losing weight and lowering your cholesterol actually what we're trying to achieve here?
Yeah, it is.
Then let's focus on what matters. Would you prefer to pay upfront, or does the payment plan feel more realistic?
Yeah, I'm just not 100% sure. I need to look at the budget just to make sure I can make it work.
Got it. This is clearly a big decision for you. And that's a good thing, because you're not just joining a program, you're choosing to become a better version of yourself. And I'd rather you be uncomfortable for a moment than stay stuck for another year. So what's the move? Do we get you started now and let your future self thank you?
Yeah.
Great. Would you prefer to pay upfront, or does a payment plan feel more realistic?
Let's fucking pay up front.
Well done, well done, well done, well done. Congratulations. Now there's some beautiful things in there, and again, that is very simplistic as a structure. I didn't want to overcomplicate it. I will add in some no's, a yes and a no, for example, as a way, excuse me, to disarm and whatever else. But who knows what the most important thing is? The fact that she did it. The fact that you did it and you kept pushing, because here's a reality, pay attention. There's two scripts. There's the buyer's script and there's your script. Whoever's script is the strongest and has the most conviction wins. So the art is in staying in the game, is in looping very effectively for their reasons. Is in disarming, probing, getting the yes, getting the micro commitment, diminishing the request, getting them to agree. Yeah, that makes sense. I see how this is costing me a lot. And an example is, right, I mean, again, I've kept that so simple. If you want complex, I can make it complex. And we can go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I can say, well, look, hey, Max, here's the thing. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. And the value, what it looks like, is you in 12 months from now, being the version of you that not only you are proud of, but your wife is proud of. Because
we should put that in there.
So I can make shit up. It doesn't matter. The point is that you got to know ledge, disturb, redirect, and ask. Now in the ask, I'm going to put two asks in there. There's going to be a yes and there's going to be a no, because when you say yes, I'm going to hit you with a no. I want you to say no. Well, no, I haven't given up. Well, no, I'm not willing. Are you willing to accept that, Sam? Like, are you willing to allow this to get worse with a concerned tone? Well, no, I'm not willing to allow it to get worse. Well, then let's get you started. How are we getting you set up today? Is it upfront? Or are we going to go down the path of the payment plan just to make it a little more manageable? That's what I mean by asking. Like, closing the loop requires you actually ask the question. Every one of those reframes, and there's a little stuff I need to edit in there, but every one of those reframes, you'll see, I think section 2, Sasha she paused on a question, and because she didn't get the yes, We didn't have a no, so I didn't help her. And because we didn't have a no, she couldn't ask for the close. She made a statement, but she didn't ask a question, which was to close, right? Which is not her fault. It's the script. So then in loop 1, she asked for the close. In loop 3, she asked. In loop 4, she asked. And then loop 5, she asked. Did you see that? Every one of those was very basic because I didn't try to edit it to make it complex, because you want it to sound a little different every time. You want it to have something like a nuance to it that's a little bit different. The amount of times, guys, I can tell you that people would be like, you know what, okay, let's go. Because I just stayed in the game. Now, here's a reality. Most prospects, I've put 5 as a rule because that's the minimum threshold important. Because most often you won't get a win because you've underestimated the necessary effort it's going to take to get the object in motion. If I had a boulder, I'll give you a little example, an object in motion. Let's say I had a boulder, a big rock, and it was 20 kilos. How much force do you think that would take to get it moving? In Newton forces, I don't know. I'm not
20.1.
Okay, so let's assume that an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, now let's imagine it was 50 kilos. More force, agreed? Let's imagine it was 150 kilos, more force, and so forth. So often we underestimate the necessary effort to get the object in motion, hence why we stop. Because an object is stagnant, the prospect, they're not moving. So we need to create pressure. Pressure is the necessary force to get the object in motion. We need to make them move. We have to create the pressure. And that's not external pressure. Don't confuse external pressure with the most important thing in the world, which is internal pressure. Their reasons. But did everyone see that process of the rule of 5? Any comments or views or questions or perspectives on that? Well done, Sasha. Good work.
I really,
Was that,
no, yeah, it's good. Definitely going to keep that on the left, on my script on the right,
And then there's obviously, and it's great learning that internal pressure and the loops to keep going. And then I guess that there's going to be the 1% where it does get to the end. And there was an example on one of Luke's earlier this week, which was amazing. Luke did the loops and loops and loops, and she would deposit it even, I think she did. And then she just was so nervous and I'm just nervous. I need to speak to my husband just to get it over the line. I really would be interested to get the perspective on if there was anything else that could have been done. But for me in that situation, because of how nervous she was, I actually genuinely feel like she needed to check with her husband. So would it have been a matter of...
There's a million things we can do, and I'm sure there's some great ideas in this room, right? And the reality is there isn't never going to be a close that's exactly the same. And you could legitimately approach that in 50 different ways and get an equal, great outcome. I'll give you a little example. Let's imagine I was a beautiful lady, and I say, hey, Sky, look, lady to lady, woman to woman. And I know every relationship is different, but what's really going on here? What's really going on here?
Yeah, I mean, me as a personality, and I think it's because I'm in sales, I find it really hard. Like if somebody is trying to close me, I do pull back, but I just think that's because I'm in sales.
Sure. So then how would we approach that in that situation, which would be exactly the same? Ledge, disturb, reframe, and you go again. If someone's getting armed, you do a little accusation audit.
Yeah.
You lean out. Hey, Sky, please don't misinterpret. My desire to help you is pressure. I sense that you may be starting to feel like all I'm after here is a sale and just trying to get you signed up. It couldn't be further from the truth. Lean out.
Yeah.
I don't want you to do anything today if you have any doubt whatsoever. Here's the thing. I go into a feel, felt, found. How you feel, uncertain, unsure, skeptical. I get it. It's totally normal. I've helped 1,000 women just like you felt, found. Do you mind if I make a suggestion? Would it be okay if I make a suggestion? Selective attention. Watch this. Selective attention. Watch this. Here's the thing, Scott. You can go talk to your partner. You could. That's fine. Or, for the first time in your life, from what you've shared, finally put yourself first and stop prioritizing everyone else, which has led to you being at this point where you're 42. I think we're about 17 kilos away from where we need to be. Your hormones are shot. You're struggling emotionally. Your energy is at rock bottom. And you're not who you want to be. So you could go talk to your husband, or we could do something about this right now. Do you mind if I make a suggestion?
Yep.
Why don't we get you started? Get you experiencing change, get you feeling great. And when you're feeling great, you can ask him for forgiveness.
Mhm.
Shall we get you started?
Yep. I mean,
Remove your bias. We're humans, we've all got our biases, we've all got the things we bring to the table. You're here to serve. So from my perspective, and that doesn't mean it's right, it's just my perspective, right? Stay in the game first, most important thing. You can't close when you're not in the game, right? I'm legitimately wanting her to get an outcome because now I actually care. First part of dual process. Second thing is, I relate to the person. I understand how you're feeling. It makes total sense. I mean, it's a reasonable decision. Then I'm asking for permission. Do you mind if I ask a question? Do you mind if I share a different perspective? I'm asking for permission. Why? Preserves autonomy. Keep them. I remain the assistant buyer. You don't have to do anything. You don't need to join the program. On a sale, little accusation order. And then I go into the scenarios, which is an alternative situation. And I redirect with selective attention what really matters. You could go talk to your partner and do what you've always done. You could delay, put off, prioritize everyone else. You could do that. Because you could make it about the money if you want. But this is not about the money. What this is about, guys, it's kind of like being in a courtroom. Have you ever heard a lawyer create an incredible, what's the word when they've got to kind of stand up and they've got to challenge the prosecution or whatever? It's the same thing. It's a counter argument. The counter argument is, well, you could go do that because it's your prerogative. It's your life. It is your consequences though. Or you could do this, selective attention. And this is why you would do this. Because you're 46. You've been procrastinating, putting off, putting everyone else before you for years, and look where you are. 18 kilos overweight, blood pressure through the roof. But do you know what really concerns me, mate? You're unhappy. From my perspective, you deserve to be happy. So you could go talk to your husband, or we could do something about this today. Do you mind if I make a suggestion? Leadership. Do you mind if I make a suggestion? I've done this 1,000 times before. Sure. Let's just do it. And you can ask for forgiveness. Are you going to be paying on credit card, or we're doing a payment plan? How are we doing this, guy? She goes, Visa. And then you say, good decision. Good decision. I want you to take a breath. Take a breath. Usa.
That was so good.
I've got you. I've got you. I ain't going to let you down. What's the visa? Great. Let's get you started. Awesome. Because at that moment, guess what they need? They need someone to believe and get the object in motion. And an object in motion stays in motion, but you can't get it in motion without pressure. And I love you, so I want to help you change. I care enough to help you change. And I'm not willing give up and let you swim in your bullshit.
I'm gonna use that.
Because
I'm gonna make it my mission to use
Well,
that at some point to chat to someone.
last thing I'll say, and then we're going to go around the room, and I appreciate that it's been a while, so we need to go. So here's the thing, right? So every other sales agent in the world would do the opposite, right? A pattern interrupt is doing the opposite to what everyone else does. So imagine this. Hey, Michelle, anyone else that you would talk to in this situation would probably accept that and allow you to sort of go away and procrastinate. But I'm not willing to do that. And can I tell you why?
Why?
Because I actually care now. I know I've only met you for about 40 minutes, but after what you've shared, I'm not willing to give up. No, I want to see you experience the breakthrough you deserve. Selective attention. Now I go back to what matters. And then I ask, let's get you started. Is it a visa or is it the payment plan? That's a trial.
Can I just ask this? What would you say? I was just thinking then I'd probably suggest, so it's not such a
make a suggestion.
big, like without, do you mind if I make a suggestion with my husband? If I don't want, if I want to make a decision, I'd move forward with the payment plan. It's not such a frightening, that's not an amount I need to sign off. So, I might sort of start working it that way for them to feel secure about.
That's a whole other workshop on closing the loop. That's a whole other discussion on closing the loop. It might be, for example, where they're saying, well, I can't pay the full amount. I want to know if I'm going to PIF or if I'm going to this, that, and the other. Okay, well then, do you mind if I make a suggestion? Let's get down today. Let's get the application sorted and approved so that if you want to do the application, then we just press go. Would that make sense? Oh, okay, well, let's do that. You don't have to finalize the application. Let's get the 10% down. Let's go through the steps. And then when you speak to your partner, if it's the pay in full, then we can do that because I've got your credit card details. By the way, what are those details? And then, okay, well, then let's get you set up on the payment plan, complete the payment application. And then guess what I would do? Who can take a wild guess what I would do once we've got the application in motion? Donna, close the loop. Oh, Donna was heading out. So what I mean is, let's imagine we then set up the application because Irene was like, okay, well, then let's just set up because then either way, I can figure it out. Once we've got the application approved, well, now that we've come this far, Sam, call me crazy. Like, should we just do it? Why? Because an object in motion is going to stay in motion. So when you start closing loops, you trigger motion. Sometimes you need to diminish the request. That's a completely different workshop, all right? So rule of 5, just maybe some takeaways with you guys, something to think about, like what was something that stood out for you that you feel is important that you can use and whatever else. Maybe start with Max.
For me, it's
sorry.
Oh, sorry. For me, it's the basically. I think one of the most important things is the leadership throughout the call.
It is critical. People want a leader. They don't want a sales agent. They want a leader. Yep, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Irene, you were next.
Yeah, no, I agree. People sometimes, I mean, they want to be told, but not that we want to tell them, but we want to lead them into making their own decision. I'm really comfortable with that, the 5 because, yeah, I like to say it how it is.
And you know what? People respect that. As long as they know why you're saying it, people respect that because, guys, it's so rare to meet someone in life these days that's actually genuine and cares. Like, if you do it for the right reasons, do it for the right reasons. If you do it for the right reasons, you're going to gain a lot of respect.
But you have to mean it. Otherwise, they're going
to mean it. Yes.
You have to
be.
Yeah, I have real empathy for people that are stuck.
That is called strategic empathy, right? What's the opposite of empathy? Is sympathy. Sympathy is the situation where you go, well, I get this is going to stretch you. Okay, well, then why don't you go look at your budget? Okay, no problem. I don't know how to put that into words, but then just calling it fucking atrocious. Just what an offensive way to behave as a sales agent, operating with sympathy, because they don't need sympathy. Sympathy is the reason they're in the situation they're in, because every prick lets them swim in their bullshit. So what you're going to do is the opposite, and you're going to say, well, because I care, not word for word, but like, I'm going to keep pressing here. Make sense? So yeah, you're right. Strategic empathy. Keep pressing. Who else is next? Sam, if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's the consistency of the rule of five, that you're staying there with them, and then ensuring that you're using a nice, slow, calm, consistent tone, which shows your confidence
1000%.
in what you're presenting.
Your tone is more important than the words. It's how you say it, and it's the meaning behind your words. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, good. Sky.
Yeah, really honing in on the looping and the rule of five. A part of that would be also, I wondered with the clarifying piece, because clarifying can sometimes, so ledging, acknowledging, and the clarifying piece, I wonder if we could insert in there as well, reciting back some of their own language. So just to clarify, and just so that I understand what you're telling me is, and then almost saying it back to them so that they can hear almost how ridiculous or how unrealistic what they're telling us is.
Perfect. That's super important. And it's kind of like that statement, hey, if I've missed anything, let me know. And just so that I'm clear. And then you say all the things, and they're like, no, that's right. That's right. Because what you want in their head is them saying, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And does that make sense? And does that make sense to you?
Have I missed anything? Yeah. Well, have I missed anything? Well, no, you haven't. No, that's right. You want them saying that. And again, guys, what we put in there is not to have that verbatim as such. You can, and we can go deeper. And I didn't want to complicate it, so I've kept it really simple. But it's to give you the confidence and the structure to start with, and then we can go a little few layers deeper and a little more complex and stuff over time. But the key is doing it. You see how Sasha dove into it, and then you notice that she obviously it's quite challenging doing it in front of peers and whatever. So well done. She got a little more comfortable in loop 2, and then loop 3 was
she got a groove on.
You got a groove, and there was some emphasis and tonality. There was a little bit of inflection in a couple of points, and a little bit of pausing in a couple of points, right? Where you just saw her lean in and just all right. And that's going to be the power. Yeah. Who else has got some takeaways? Anyone else haven't shared, Michelle?
I'm loving the feel, felt, found, and going through that. And you said a few meetings ago, it's an oldie. It is. I did it 20 years ago with John McGrath, but it's so good, and just really nurturing the customer, especially at the end with their objections, and then making that the reason, covering that in this meeting I've really enjoyed. So even the husband, I'm thinking of more things in my head, do you mind me asking, does he sign off every purchase with you before he makes it, or depending how deep you have to go with that? But
the reality is, like, the main focus point of all of it is selective attention. Let's focus on the real problem here, because your partner's not the problem, your budget is not the problem, Albanese is not the problem. The problem is staring at you every morning in the mirror when you wake up. That's the problem. And it's making sure we focus on the right things, because it's easy to focus on all the external stuff. Well, I don't have the money. Well, if this was important enough to you, how could we? Who knows what kind of question that is? How could we? It's a calibrated question. Now, in Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, he talks about calibrated questions. Calibrated questions are putting the real problem in the lap of the person that's responsible for solving it. Because I'm not their financial planner, well, how could we find the funds so that you can get the support you need to be able to North Star silence? Because when I say how could we, what are we going to? The realms of possibility. So when someone says, well, I can't, we diminish possibility with a definite. There's no definites in this life. There's always possibility when you, who knows the old adage, where there's a will,
There's a way.
Okay.
hey Jane, where there's a will, there's a way. My question to you is, Irene, do you actually want it? Well, yes, I do. Okay. How can we find the funds then, even to just get the 10% down? Well, I do have an account stashed away. I can transfer some money. Great. Okay. Because you ask a calibrated question and you get the problem solver solving the problem, which is them. They have the problem, not you. Make sense? So don't get caught in chasing a rabbit down a rabbit hole. Use selective attention and focus on the right thing. The real problem, yeah? Who else has got something? And then who else has not shared yet? Matt, have you shared? No.
I have not. Look, great training. Absolutely loved it. So I hope you'll share the recording. So I'd love to listen to it again. But I've taken heaps of notes. Look, the rule of 5 is fantastic, and just pacing them through that. I've been doing this for a long time, and none of the scripts that I've worked with the companies that I've worked with, have followed that rule of 5. So I think that's fantastic. Again, old school, but it absolutely works. The Phil Felt found, yeah, lots of gold there. So
Yeah, awesome.
if you don't mind.
Awesome. We'll do. Luke, have you shared?
I think just the selective attention, and that was sort of from our back
Selective
and forth
attention.
last night.
Selective attention. Luke was messaging me back
Yeah.
and forth, we were kind of fucking around messaging, like about an objection. And I just kept writing selective attention and then a reframe for selective attention. He's like, I get it. Like, just focus on what matters, right? Because the rest doesn't matter.
Yeah, because if we can change what they're thinking about, then we're going to change what their emotions are, and then it's like just
Correct.
gradually shifting them over.
What is the genesis of every emotion?
Thoughts.
A thought. Change their thoughts. We change their thoughts by changing what they're focusing on. I've literally sat in situations with prospects for an hour with selective attention, probing, shoot, probing, shoot, probing, shoot. There was one I think I told you guys about the other day. I literally sat in silence for 10 minutes after I asked a question. No one spoke. No one spoke. He just kept looking at me. I just kept looking at him in silence because I asked the question. And I literally sat like this, just waiting. No one spoke. 1 hour, maybe more. Luke, you've probably listened to a few. Hey, I fucked many up, but I've also pressed them many and got them because I just was unwilling to give up. And so you might have to get 5 loops. You may have to do 13. You need to correctly estimate the level of effort necessary to get the result, and you need to measure whether or not it's worth the squeeze, right? If you believe it's worth the squeeze, you keep probing, but at least a minimum of 5. And you know the old saying, I don't know if this is exactly how it goes. Don't ask 5 times, shame on you. Don't ask 5 times and fucking shame on me because I haven't taught you correctly, right? So keep fucking asking, because the most important thing is that we recognize that these prospects have been doing this all their life, and it's an unfortunate truth. But people, it's like, there's character suicide. There's another form of sabotage where it's like they just destroy their lives by procrastinating, making poor decisions, and despite they're uncomfortable, they're comfortable being uncomfortable. So you require someone like you with skill and care factor to press and probe. Now you can get there in 20 minutes. It's possible. Sometimes it may take 40 minutes. Sometimes it may take 5 minutes. Sometimes all it is actually removing the bullshit and getting straight to it. Do you actually want to change? Like, hey, man to man, Matt, I don't mind if you do this program or you don't. Sounds like there's a lot going on. You've got an extreme amount of challenges ahead if things don't change. Would you agree? Do you want to change or you don't, mate? Simple as that. See how I just cut through to the bullshit? Mate, drop the shit. Because here's the thing. You've probably got 99 excuses why it may make sense not to do anything, right? And every one of them are valid. But here's the thing. All I'm interested in is the one reason that's more powerful than those 99 as to why you would. So what's that one reason, Matt? And he would say, my kids. And I would say, well, that's good enough for me. Get your card out, my friend. We are going to change your life for your kids. Let's go. In 3 fucking seconds, I cut the bullshit. I don't need your excuses, my friend. All I need is to know the truth. I had a mentor who was like a mindset coach for me when I first started my personal development journey. And one day he got me to do something. He told me, I need you to do this. This guy in Queensland, right? Next week I come back and guess what I didn't do? What he said. So then he asked me, he said, so have you done the thing? And I said, well, no. And he goes, whoa, 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 whoa. I asked you a yes, no question. Did you do the thing? I said, no. He said, okay, why not? So sometimes it's just the degree at which you are willing to be honest and cut through the noise, because it's otherwise we get caught in all the reframes and clarity and this and that, and it goes nowhere. People dig their heels in. Sometimes they just dig their heels in. It's like, fuck it, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So you just want to cut through sometimes with brevity, get to the juice, right? Do you want this or you don't? And then, look, it's a yes, no question. I say that with love, but it's a yes, no question. Do you actually want it? Sometimes it's that simple. If they're digging their heels in, you ask 15 times and blah, 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 blah. I need to go speak to my husband. I need to go look to my priest, whatever it is, right? And I know we're focusing a lot on objections, and that's not what sales is. Sales is not about objections, but objections is part of it, right? There's so much more we can talk about at the start of the call. I want to focus on in the next 2 weeks, after this week, I want to focus on the prescription phase. I want to focus on the prescription phase because I firmly believe there's only one reason why anyone buys anything. If you can identify a problem that deserves to be solved. And usually that's by diagnostic. Who knows how a gap is created? You diagnose the problem. You diagnose a problem.
Sell the solution.
Yeah. Here's where you could be. There's the gap. But diagnose the problem. And the diagnosis needs to come from a place of authority. We're going to talk about in the next 2 weeks, right? Because that's a game changer. You know, when you can, I think I told some of you guys, I sold a $140,000 personal training package in an industry that sells $60 sessions. Kid you not. $140,000 up front. How? Diagnose a problem, sell the outcome. There's the gap.
Sell the sausage, not the sizzle.
Yeah, sell the sausage, not the sizzle, right? Love that. So that's good. I like that. I'm going to use that. Can't remember what else I was going to say, but I think we're probably done, guys. That's heaps, and you're still kind of sitting here. Let's get the wheels in motion. Anything else anyone wants to flesh out before we?
Look, I'm dying to know, Luke. Did that lady that
I was just responding to your message then. I just saw it pop up. No. So it had nothing to do with the husband, and it never does. And that's exactly what I was about to put in the text message to you.
Oh,
So I'm still working on her.
Yeah.
To try to get in touch with her, but it never is about the husband.
What happens with the did you process the deposit in that case? And so does that get returned to her or?
No.
Not refundable.
Oh, she did put the deposit down in the end.
Yeah.
She paid the deposit and then signed the terms even, didn't she?
Yeah. And then she started like it was she's like, I was starting to feel uncomfortable. I was like, all right, well, let's what's actually making you feel uncomfortable? Then she started going through scamming stuff and I'd just been scammed. And it's like, well, I didn't say this to her, but I was like, I should have just said, I mean, you've already given me your credit card details. So like, I mean, if I haven't scammed, like this is already out in the open now, right? And like what's actually coming up for you? Like there's so many different ways just to sort of inject humor. And like, if you're really worried about us being a scam, I mean, we're already sort of crossed that bridge now, haven't we? And I think I might have even said that, like, I couldn't tell you anything a scammer probably wouldn't tell you right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was, I've got to go back and have a listen to the call myself and really tap into her reasons, because it's just her keeping herself stuck. That's all it is.
So would you call that out on the call? Would you say, can I be honest with you? And you should go, yeah, this is not about asking your husband.
Yeah, if that's what you like, what goes unsaid on the calls doesn't help.
Yeah.
Because again, like if you're coming and you say, I don't feel like it is, then she, like, as long as it's coming from the right place, she's either going to acknowledge that it's not, or you actually uncover it is because he's controlling and doesn't let me spend the money. And then it's a different sort of thing, right? Because what goes unsaid is unknown, and then we don't know what we're trying to actually help someone work through.
I can honestly say, you know, through my years now being online, I've never been so excited about a team as I am now about you guys, right? And
I'm excited to get on a call.
And look, you know, and here's the thing. So I've been saying this for a long time, and Luke's been around long enough, and he's been hearing me say it. And most of you that are in the digital space and being involved with offers know that the landscape is changing. We just talked about scam concerns, whatever it is. The game is changing from a one-call close to a set and close. It's changing. You have to do the work. You've got to get people, you've got to connect with people, build a bridge to get them to where you want them to go, right? So you've got to, it's a volume game, it's a numbers game, but you've got to get, in that regard, it's a numbers game. You've got to get to them, build a relationship, get them to the next call where you can close them. Because the familiarity of your voice and that second connection is going to reduce the concerns, right? So by that point, you've called them, they've engaged, they've been on a website, they've been retargeted by Instagram, they've gone to YouTube, they'll eventually be on our podcast, they'll get free resources, they then get a call from you and they're like, oh, great, well, nice to hear from you. Yeah, okay, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. Book you in, then they watch the webinar. And then all these things start to increase trust. And what that's going to mean is less objections, because the one call close is legitimately a big ask. It's like, you know, hey, you know, Sam, we just met, but do you mind getting married? Stupid question, Shane. Dumb question. All right. So it's kind of that. It's not that it doesn't work anymore. It's just harder and harder and harder. And all digital environments are changing where there's more and more nurture. And it doesn't need to be more than a 2-call situation. There will be many 1-call situations, but it's more and more a 2-call close, right?
But the coaching industry, health coaching industry, is just going to boom in the next, like I was reading a little report. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. So what we're doing now, learning all this and getting uncomfortable, keeping us to a high standard, I love, because this is, we can smash it in years to come, because it's just, everyone's getting fatter and sicker, right?
Yeah, well, that's the idea. So I think we've probably had enough theory for one day. Your heads are probably, who's feeling, is anyone feeling a little overwhelmed with the process? Does anyone need maybe any additional bits and pieces, or?
I just find that it's a lot of content, but it's really good. So I'm overwhelmed, but in a good way, and it's starting to sink in. So it's not a criticism at all. I'm just sort of like, okay, I want to go back over that, but I'll be jumping on the phones today and from now on. But I've sort of probably made it a bit harder for myself doing that. But that is just me. And then once I know it, I'm off. But it's really good. I mean, yeah, there's just so much to cover, but you've got it there. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. I can assure you, you know, when I jumped on the phones, when I launched the business, I was the only person in sales, right? Every one of you are much better than I was back then, by far. Not even close. I absolutely knew nothing. If you listen to it, my God, you'd be like, holy shit, this guy sucks. I don't have those calls anymore. They literally were so bad. They're cringeworthy, but you know, guess what? It still worked. Still worked. Because at the end of the day, it's just a conversation, right? So yeah, we want to be tactical and very good and whatever. But you're going to learn through the iterations. Just get on and just get going, right? Just get on, just get going. Because a lot of it's your internal dialogue. A lot of it's your internal dialogue that's going to be the issue, because the prospect doesn't know you haven't done 4 million calls. I don't know.
Exactly.
So your posture, I was just talking to James Wellington out of the Gold Coast this morning, who runs Amala and runs all these other things and whatever. And he was talking about sales. I don't know why I brought it up. We were just talking about sales just this morning. And he was talking about posture, belief. I was like, man, I couldn't agree more. And I'm like, you're preaching to the converted. Tell me. And he's like, energy, belief, you know, showing up with conviction. Like that matters more than the words you say. And I'm like, you're right. Abundance, belief, that kind of stuff. And if you think you're world class, you hold yourself with that posture, guess what people are going to believe? That you are that. I watched something on YouTube, just really interesting. I think it was in the Diary of a CEO, where they were talking about the science about people who sit like this versus people who sit like this. And the distance between your earlobe and your shoulder having a direct correlation to your belief and energetic state.
Wow.
Because
does it
this is concern and I'm
Yeah.
concerned and I'm not good enough and whatever. And the distance between there and there being a direct
I'm gonna
correlation.
start stretching.
I know.
Yeah. Bit of yoga in the morning.
So
It's a little 1% things, right? It's just, I love your like your continuation of learning and training and sharing it with us. So
Fantastic.
how many
Mm.
books have you read? I don't know.
yeah, we have to approach things with this I suppose heart, because our clients deserve it. They deserve the most capable individuals to show up for them. That's my honest belief.
Mm.
They deserve it. They deserve the most capable people on the other end of that Zoom that are unwilling to give up, very tactfully press, probe, and nudge over and over and over and over again. They deserve it. Yeah, Sky.
I know we're going to be focusing on the signature package.
Yeah, sell to your conviction, all right? Sell
But
to your
I
conviction.
wondered if there was a certain amount of weight that somebody wants to lose before you start thinking about the 12 months.
That's a good question. From my perspective, anything more than 15 to 20, I'm starting to think about the result. Well,
Yeah.
is it more important to you that we work towards getting the 40 kilos off, or would you be happy just getting the 15 off and gaining the tools to work on the rest yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, it's more important that I get the 40 off. Okay. Do you mind if I make a suggestion? And I prescribe the outcome. Remember that $140,000 package I sold in personal training, where everyone else was selling $60 sessions? Because I didn't give a shit. Because I'm legitimately positioning the outcome. So I'm like, well, look, my recommendation is, and I've done this 1,000 times. It's more important we focus on the 40 kilos and ensure you don't slip back. Would you agree? Yes. So it's more important we get the 40 kilos off? Yes. And give you the tools to ensure you never put it back on? Yes. So we need a little more time to make sure we lock that all in. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. I'm going to recommend our 12-month. It's our premium package. Now, someone like you deserves it. Now,
And is there anything else other than time that they kind of get with that package, or
No,
just
it's support. The time is support. Support is the critical part. It's the community, it's the accountability, it's the coaching, it's everything. Time is everything, right?
Yep.
So don't, in your mind, don't reduce it to just time. It's much more than that. Amplify it to the support.
Yeah.
That's critical, and here's why. Makes sense? That kind of belief. Now, sell to your conviction. Super important. Sell to your conviction, but sell the outcome, not the package. Fuck the package. No one cares.
Yeah.
I can assure you, even if it was $100, guess what? They're going to complain it's too expensive. I saw something the other day, and I see you guys nodding, and I'm sure you're going to agree. There's two different types of clients. In this post I saw, and I agreed. I thought this is so true. A $500 client says, "What do I get?" A $50,000 client says,
"Yeah,
do we start?"
Yeah.
So the cheaper the product, the lower the prospect, and the more they're going to get caught in the weeds, right? The more they're going to get caught up on the features and all that kind of stuff. None of that matters. What matters is you get X. So when someone says, "Luke, what do I get?" Hey, look, I get all that. What do I get?
Get a transformation.
What do I get, Luke?
What you get is a ticket to the future that you want, and the support and the help to make sure that over the next 6 to 12 months.
Hey, that's a great question, Michelle. Actually, in fact, I get asked that all the time. You know, I suppose I could go on about, you know, the coaching and the support, the accountability, the community, the videos and the recipes and all the things. There's so many, they're countless. I could have you here for 30 minutes. However, none of that matters, because do you know what you actually get, Michelle?
What do I get?
You get to look at yourself in 12 months from now and be filled with joy and pride. You're finally the person you wanted to be. No diabetes, no anxiety about your health. Proud of who you are. That's what you get. So out of curiosity, what's the best way to get you going? Is it upfront? Or are we going to get you going on the payment plan? That's what you get. Make sense?
Yes.
Makes sense.
There's a reframe that I've had in my mind, but I haven't executed it in my yet. And
when you do, I want to listen to it. What is it?
Oh, it's well, just because you were saying that, so something along the lines of people that have joined our program and lost the weight, so 6 months, 12 months from now, haven't looked back and thought, gee, that was expensive for what I've accomplished. So not in those exact words, but trying to just position people that are at the end of their journeys or in their journeys.
That's a feel, felt, found.
Mm.
That's a feel, felt, found, right? That's what that is.
Haven't looked back
Now,
and you know, said all that, you know, just linking it back to the price.
whatever you say, though, it needs to be said with brevity, clarity. Whatever you say needs to be said with that absolute brevity,
conviction,
right? Because you can have the most incredible reframe and you fluff it and it becomes a dog's breakfast because you're umming, ahhing, you're uncertain. It sounds contrived. It sounds like, oh, fuck, what this person on about, right? Or you could say the most simple thing. Do you want to know how this guy almost sold me on a I think it was like on a fucking Rolex or something. Do you know how this guy almost sold me in? Couldn't believe it. And I actually praised him for it. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, I do.
We were on a cruise. And I was not in the market for a watch, right? It just was not part of my list of priorities, right? But many things I'm investing into, property and business and whatever. I'm not going to be going buying a fucking $30,000 watch at this point in my life. I'm on a cruise, already spending money. I'm walking through this shop and it's a high-end jewelry shop. And I'm looking at the watch, right? Shame on me. I'm looking at the watch and I'm like, geez, that's a nice watch. And he says, well, what do you like about it? I said, well, the side that it's a Rolex. Like I love that, you know, it's, you know, I've always been looking at that particular model, the date just or whatever it is. And I love the fact that there's the two-tone, blah, blah, blah. And he said, would you like to try it on? I said, cool. So try it on is going to make that suit you, right? It's a nice watch. And then I said, yeah, but look, you know, man, I'm not spending that type of money. I'm not in the market for a watch right now. He says, I totally get it. He goes, I totally get it. No problem. And he goes, I mean, look, just out of, you know, curiosity, if there was a reason why you would, you know, consider buying something like this, though, well, why would you buy it? I looked at him, I said, well, because I like it. And he said, well, you deserve to have things you like. Do you want it? Do you want to buy it? And he shot for the clothes. I went, you motherfucker.
Did you buy it?
No, I should have. No. But the point is, like, he asked me my why, and he said, and then he used that. Well, you deserve to have things you like.
Cool. Well, you deserve to buy things you like.
You deserve to have things you like. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to invest in you.
Really simple.
So simple. When I was like, man, that's
I
pretty
tell myself when I go shopping.
I actually high-fived him and I said, well done. And,
do you want to join the team?
Yeah, do you want to? Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. Anyway, look, well done. All right. Well,
if I don't get up this
just before we go, how about we do something? How about we do the Miyagi M? I'm going to share it into the Slack channel, and you need to warm up your fingers before you do it. Otherwise, you're gonna pull a muscle, and you do the Miyagi M, and I'm gonna take a screenshot. Yeah, on 3, 2, 1. Done. All right, I'm just going to share that into the Slack channel, just saying to the team, revving them up that the sales engine is revving up. So good work, guys. If you need anything, DM. Otherwise, I think some of you are getting ready to start dialing, starting to get ready to get on some bookings and stuff like that. Yeah.
I want to get on. Yeah. But if I don't get off this seat, I'm going to need our program. So I'm just going to get up for a minute.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, see you guys. I'm gonna go breakfast. See you guys. Well done.
Bye.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.